1, and we're live with the EU Wayback machine, which I always do this specifically so that Brandon can be pissed off later. Episode 18, Way of the Wookie.
No. Would anyone like to tell us a bit about this story?
Do you want the synopsis? The short?
Well, this was published in Star Wars Weekly was this exclusively in the UK?
I believe it was. I believe this is your side of the aisle.
Yes, well the cover says 12p, so
right. So this is one of the exclusive Star Wars Weekly stories that aren't regular U.S. Marvel reprints. So it's Star Wars Weekly number 94, and I think 95, possibly 96. This was first published in Star Wars Weekly December 12th, 1979, and it covers a very famous Han Solo and Chewbacca smuggling story that's alluded to later throughout the EU. I know this story specifically is referenced in Anne Crispin's Rebel Dawn later on in the Bantam era. And I have a personal theory of how this could reconcile with some of the new Disney canon, but we'll talk about that later. But it's the famous story where Han loses his load of spice to the Imperials, and the spice was supposed to be delivered as part of the job that Han was doing for Jabba, and then Han ends up being on the hook for the money. But there's a Wookiee that gets, I guess, freed from Imperial custody here. The bulk of the story takes place on a planet adjacent to Kessel called Formos. And this is where Han picks up his spice. He has a run-in with the Imperials, and Chewbacca actually finds out he has some history with this Wookiee they decide to save later on. But that's the gist of the story. What do you guys think about this overall?
Well, it's pretty decent. It
was all right.
It's a nice little prequel story. Doesn't have the black and white, I think, actually benefits the story.
Yes, I almost prefer Carmine. I almost prefer Carmine Infantino's art in black and white.
I'll have to send you the Showcase Presents Flash volumes then. Those are all in black and white. Anyway, I think we've said this every single time. Is this every single episode, the last 3 or 4? Is this the last 1979 story?
Maybe. We're in December.
I think we've been in December 3 times in a row with these stories.
I think we thought that the annual was the last one, but I think this might be.
Okay.
So here we have the cover of Star Wars Weekly issue 94. What do we think?
It's fine.
It's good clickbait. Han shooting what looks like Chewbacca in the back, but we'll get to that point in the story later on. So the opening of the story is the Millennium Falcon with Han and Chewie aboard lands on Formos. They almost crash into an Imperial prison barge, and that prison barge is filled with detainees that are going to be sent to the spice mines of the Kessel. So it's a prison ship, and Foremost, we get some history on it. It just says it's because of its proximity to the spice-rich Kessel, and given its appeal to smugglers, adventurers, more or less honest merchants, and sometimes armed forces of the Empire. So as soon as he lands, Han and Chewie get detained by the Imperial, who is looking. He finds Han very familiar because he's had some run-ins with him in the past. He recognizes his Wookiee co-pilot, and Han just plays dumb, saying, "Oh, you must be thinking of somebody else."
I'm
I've been
not
to
here
this
to pick
planet.
up spice. I'm just here for mining equipment that I can
Right.
sell on elsewhere for a profit.
He has his cover story, and then he has forged papers that show that he's never been on this planet before. But really, he's supposed to meet with Nimrith, who is
Yes.
the representative from Jabba the Hutt. He's like the contact guy who's going to hook him up with the spice so that Han can smuggle it to where it needs to go.
I do like this moment here where he goes, "No, don't talk to me. You've attracted too much attention. We'll meet up elsewhere, somewhere private."
I like the alien design quite a bit. That's a
Yes.
that's a solid alien.
I quite like this opening page.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Almost is
artwork's
quite a nice
great.
looking planet.
I think the black and white. You know, one can make an argument that black and white can kind of help almost any comic. But I think it really helps here. Just the this is a great double page spread. Kind of. The top is double page. The bottom has panels, but whatever.
I still count that.
It's close enough.
Yeah, it's a new type of ship. I don't think we've seen this before. It's not really a Star Destroyer, kind of similar looking, but it's a good design.
Yeah, I quite like this design, even though it's not entirely symmetrical. There's a bit of weirdness going on over here.
Marcel, if this was Mirror Universe, I would be wearing an all white shirt and have 8 of those instead of 8 all black shirts. Anyway, sorry.
Now, this Imperial's name is, I think, Commander Quit.
Yeah, it's like Squirt. I question the naming convention on some of these Imperials. they could do better, have more creative names. But in one part, he's referred to as a captain, and then later he's referred to as a colonel. Anyway, I guess
that's sort of an ongoing problem with, especially the Marvel comics. They do not keep track of ranks or what they mean at all.
Yeah, I guess he could be captain of the prison barge, but really it doesn't matter. That's the one inconsistency I found throughout. But once they get clear, the Imperials, Han goes to talk with Nimrith, and he says,
"Does anyone want to do a quick Wikipedia search for Delphon plague wasps?"
Sure.
Yeah, we get a reference to Delphon plague wasp, which sound horrible. Wouldn't want to get stung by any of those.
Looks like they are just in from this story.
Okay.
Never used again. But Nimrith says we have to speak at a more indiscreet place, so they go to these atmosphere baths, Zord's atmosphere baths, which are
it's a sauna.
Yeah, basically steam sauna. It's not clear if they're outside or inside, but it looks like there's a species of Nimrith's type, various lizard things. There we got Han with his shirt off again, very conveniently. It's a running theme in these comics. But he talks a little bit about the Imperials and how they're looking for workers because there's a shortage of labor at the spice mines of Kessel, and he's looking to just pick up anybody who is stepping out of line and send them to the spice mines of the Kessel. So Han takes the warning. He basically walks away with Chewie.
I do quite like this bit where Nimrith says, "The point, my dear Solo, if you'll excuse a bit of levity, is that the heat is on."
Right. And Han basically thinks he's overreacting. He thinks, he's got everything under control. He's a smuggler. He's done this a million times. But then as he walks out the door with Chewie, he sees a squad of Imperials escorting a Wookiee in chains, I guess going to the spice mines at Kessel. Chewie just runs after him and says, "No, what are you doing?" And then Han, we see in the next panel, we get like a snapshot draw Western sort of shootout of Han, where he just shoots Chewie in the back with the stun blast.
I do like this row of panels.
Oh yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah,
and
very well done.
Leaves a great cliffhanger for the little British kids who were reading this back in 1979. It's like,
right, you'd have to buy you'd have to buy the next issue just to know what happened. Like Han just shot Chewie out of the blue. That's what it looks like.
Oh, they just shot Chewie. Where's the next issue?
Sorry, Rob.
Yeah.
That's the best you get.
Next issue basically sells itself. I mean, I guess he does claim the blaster was set on stun, but he says it was a big misunderstanding. It's funny that the Imperials take notice that he just committed a crime in the streets. So they are like, they do some law enforcement work, I guess. They don't just go about their business and leave the two to their own fight, which is kind of...
I will say, I don't think one stun blast is usually sufficient to take down a Wookiee.
Probably not.
No, but Han's weapon is probably highly illegal. It's probably got way more the punch than
probably
it should.
But so this is something that we do end up seeing elsewhere later in the Marvel series. Actually, the first instance of Wookiee slavery, because that was something the Empire did.
Right, we get it alluded to in the Wookiee storybook, I think, with the history that a reptilian race went to Kashyyyk and enslaved the Wookiees. I think for the Empire, I think that is explained. But Han has a personal history. There's a blood feud with this other Wookiee, which is named Hronk. Hronk.
Yes.
Hronk, which is very difficult to say. But there was a blood feud, and when the Empire took over the planet, basically Chewbacca escaped, and Hronk eventually wound up in Imperial custody and is being escorted here to be sent to the slave spice mines.
We've got a cover here of Chewie and Hronk. What do we think?
I would say that one's pretty good. That one's pretty cool. I think that's a pretty worthy cover.
And the first page is almost entirely, it is entirely recap with some rephrasing of the dialogue we saw earlier to save a bit of space. Although I like that they keep the pun that Nimrith made earlier, but they rephrase it slightly. He says things aren't, if you pardon the pun.
Yes, because they're in a sauna. That would make sense. So the story continues where they're questioned by the Imperials, like what happened, and Han comes up with this story. Oh, it's just the way of the Wookiee. So he saw this Wookiee in custody. It's his natural reaction to try to free him. Had him under control. And go ahead.
Well, the line that Han comes up with isn't that he tried to free him. It's he saw this other Wookiee who, and he's trying to ingratiate himself to the Imperials. So he goes, well, obviously this Wookiee that you've got chained up here must have done something wrong. And Chewbacca, knowing that, just couldn't help himself, and he had to go for him. And it was a matter of honor for him.
Right.
He said he didn't mean any harm, only to wipe out this black mark on his race. Which,
right. It's like Jack Rubenstein when he shoots the Kennedy assassin. He's like, he sees him being brought out by the cops and like goes after him. So that's just his natural reaction, right?
Yeah. He's trying to, come up with something that they would buy, but also that would appeal to their sort of imperial way of thinking.
Anyway, it lets them the stormtroopers more or less buy the story and let Han and Chewie go.
Oh, and they also go, hang on, why shouldn't we also take this Wookiee? And Han goes, well, do you want these two at each other's throats and potentially killing each other? Otherwise, if that happened, then you just end up with a net gain of 0 spice among slaves. At least, if you leave him here, you at least have the one that you've got. And they go, okay, I suppose you've got a point there. But yeah.
Right. And then
Chewie's understandably not happy.
Right. He explains the backstory, and then he decides to sneak away as they're waiting to load the spice, to sneak aboard the prison barge via some sort of hook, which is very interesting. That's how they load their cargo. But he sneaks aboard, whacks all the Imperials on the head with no weapons, just comes in there completely unarmed, and makes his way to the detention area where he frees Hronk. And then, meanwhile, Han's waiting for his spice with Nimrith, and he assures Nimrith, Chewie's never missed a takeoff. Like, he'll be here. He just went into town to pick up some, what did he say, personal items.
On this page here, we learn that, as you said, Chewie's got a feud with this guy, with Hronk, this other Wookiee, and that he went for him earlier because they wanted to settle the feud.
Right.
And it's, at first you assume that it's, Chewie wanted to kill him and wipe out the feud that way, but based on what we learn later, it may have actually been something else. But,
I think the way they feud is in a battle royal, so he can't just kill him while he's in chains there. That wouldn't be honorable. That wouldn't settle the blood feud. So he's just looking to take him into, free him and then take care of business himself, basically.
They were both on Kashyyyk. Chewie got away, Hronk didn't. And I think this here, if I'm not mistaken, is an Imperial troop transport.
Yes, it is. Look at that continuity.
Look at them telling those
the broadside attack of that Imperial troop transport is by the front. It's not by the side where all the guns are. It's just, they come at them head on.
Well, I mean, the side is also where all the troops are exposed to the elements. So,
sure.
It's...
Sure, but they can't shoot in a straight line. They'd be shooting, with each of them in front of them, so that would block their line of fire.
So this is what, the third one of those we've seen?
Might be. I think so.
There was one of the, the Imperial troop transport comic, obviously, but there was also that one we saw in the Marvel series where they were in the Sandcrawler.
Right.
But yes, I quite like this droid here.
Oh yeah, with his little wheel. That looks like the what's it called? The waitress from episode 2, almost.
Yes.
Less complicated, which, fair enough. I feel like wheelie droids are a bad idea. I've never seen one that I'm like, oh yeah, I would buy that. If I lived in this universe. You're just asking for it to fall over. I don't even know how it stays up to begin with.
Anyway, as they take off, so Chewie basically frees Hronk, brings him aboard, throws him into the secret cargo compartment. But actually, there's a switcheroo, so Chewbacca actually gets in there. But
sorry, brief tangent. There's a line on this page. Yes, Nightfall finds their defenses mechanized and sentient, turned against the possibility of a massive attack, as opposed to a single individual, right? And that reminds me of the the line that was cut from A New Hope.
Oh
the
yeah,
one I'm showing.
the Aqualay line.
Yes.
You'd think they'd load cargo via a tractor beam or something, not a hook.
Wow.
But that's the way they do things. Anyway, so Han sees that Nrith actually sold him out to the Imperials. So they load their spice. They take off as the Imperials approach. And unbeknownst to Han, Chewie actually makes the decision to dump the spice at that point right after takeoff. And they get caught in the blockade as they attempt to leave the planet. So there's a Star Destroyer right in their path. And Han goes back and says Nimrith double-crossed them. And they're caught in the tractor beam of the other ship, the prison barge ship. So they get boarded, and Han basically plays dumb, like, we're not smuggling anything. You can check yourself. So the Imperials scan the ship. They can't find anything. They just find the mining equipment, which is Han's cover story. And the Imperial thinks, well, maybe the other Wookiees aboard, because they have a Wookiee co-pilot here. And they can't find any evidence of the scan because it's actually Chewbacca in the compartment, and he's covered himself with grease or something that affects the scanning equipment. Meanwhile, Kronk is...
Well, it's not that it affects the scanning equipment. It's that it covers up his
body scent,
the streak in his fur that is his distinctive feature that makes him look different from Chewbacca.
It's said though the Imperial can't really tell the difference between two Wookiees. They all look the same to him. And Kronk, who's standing by Solo, actually stays close to the Imperial, and the stormtroopers who are scanning around the ship don't scan near the Imperial commander, which kind of makes sense. So they just elude the search, and they can't find anything. And in the end, Chewie pops out of the compartment, and he explains how they got clear of all the scanners, but unfortunately they dumped the spice right after takeoff. So they're out of a load of spice. Go ahead.
And since they saved Kronk's life, that wipes out the feud.
Yeah, that wipes out the feud. Now, I have a theory about this. So if you wanted to somehow reconcile the expanded universe, or at least the story, Chewie ends up dying in Vector Prime, right, on Ramamul. And he later appears in the sequel trilogy. Well, if you wanted to say that could be Kronk assuming the name Chewbacca, right? Because in a way, since Chewbacca saved his life, and Han here from Imperial Spice Mines of Kessel, he has a life debt to them. So who's to say he couldn't take on the name Chewbacca and be Han's co-pilot later on in the sequel trilogy? Anyway, just a theory, something that crossed my mind as I was reading this.
Naza, to answer your question, she does have a name. It is Flo, the waitress droid from episode 2. I did have to look that up, but I did know that she had it.
I seem to remember that. Didn't she have a name tag in Arbesh
she does.
that said Flo?
Yeah, she's got a little name tag. That cover sucks, by the way. I'm against that one.
Yes.
Any disembodied heads don't look very good as comic covers.
No. And this is already like incoherent. It's like, what are they running on? This looks like the opening credits to the third season of Transformers, where they're just running across the opening credits, and you're like, this is dumb. This show should have ended at the movie. But yeah, so this story is pretty decent. It's not gonna win any awards. It's no Shakespeare, right? But I think of the UK exclusive comics, it's pretty decent.
Okay, so does anyone have a Dark Horse copy of this comic because on the one that I have, this is in the Wild Space omnibus. It says Kashyyyk here with the correct spelling. But
Yes,
I
it
wonder-
also says Jabba the Hutt with 2 T's. So
Yes.
I think it may be corrected in Wild Space. I'm reading it from Wild Space as well. I think these Star Wars weeklies individually are pretty hard to come by. I don't see them all that often.
I don't think you can get them very consistently in the United States. I think the only person who would have a shot at getting them is you, Robert.
Yeah, especially the exclusive stories that aren't reprints like this one.
Oh yeah, I've tried to
IDW
get.
didn't reprint these, did they?
So some of the Star Wars weeklies are just reprints of the U.S. Marvel series.
A lot of
And
them are.
This is one of the exclusive stories that isn't a technical Marvel comic story.
I know. So I'm more familiar with how Transformers worked, and they had the same setup as they had a weekly UK exclusive series running alongside the US Marvel series, and that would break up the US stories into pieces and then print those over the course of a week. But because there were so few US stories to do that with, they had to make new UK exclusives. And they had British writers. They had a British writer. They had Simon Furman do those. And usually, what he would do is he would take like random nothing toys and be like, "What is this character's story?" Which is why the Marvel UK Transformers stuff is really beloved, is because a lot of those characters he actually gave them characters. For Marvel Star Wars, as far as I could tell, they were just like, "Who cares? Just to do it something." So you have stuff like when Alan Moore gets a crack at these, he just writes whatever, and you read it, go, oh, there's gods in the Star Wars universe, or there's a weird sort of religion around Cthulhu or something. You know, there's a bunch of monsters fighting Luke. I don't know. It's all like weird stuff.
The next one of these I do quite like. That's the one where Chewie gets a medal.
Day after Death Star.
Day after the Death Star.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have a great deal to add to this other than it's pretty decent, and I would love to see the UK versions with the black and white artwork reprinted. I wish Marvel still did the essential collections, because I think the like we said, the Carmen Infantino art would look a lot better if it was all in black and white.
Yeah, I'm not one of those comic readers who thinks, oh, everything has to be in color. No, sometimes
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. This story works well in black and
Yeah,
white.
so it looks really.
But go ahead, Robert.
I mean, I'm currently reading Concrete. That's a Dark Horse series from 1986. That's in black and white. Incidentally, written and drawn by Paul Chadwick, who wrote the Darklighter arc in Star Wars Empire.
Nice.
Very cool.
But for this story, it is notable that I believe it's the first story that occurs before A New Hope that isn't a flashback story. We've had stories that occurred, chronologically before A New Hope, but they were sort of flashback stories, like Luke on Tatooine, this old story of Ben, him telling that in the Falcon or whatever. But
Yeah, this is the first prequel story, like properly
right
set before.
This is not a flashback at all. So this is the first prequel story, like Al said. So that is notable. It's a very famous story. It's how Han ends up in debt to Jabba. There might be one or two other stories of that same event, or different takes on that throughout the EU. So is that the exact on his smuggling jobs for Jabba? Possibly. Like, I don't think that would be an inconsistency, really. But it's good. It's distinct. It's self. There's no major continuity flaws that I could tell.
What do you think about this panel here? lettering issue or scripting issue, because it repeats the dialogue
Oh yeah.
mostly.
Yeah, there are a couple instances where the issues change over, like from 94 to 95, where it repeats the same last page or so of dialogue, but it's a slightly different.
That's a recap thing.
Well, it's a recap, but it's not exactly the same. So I think some of the text is slightly different, so the dialogue is slightly different. So which is the most canon version of events? I don't think it matters. It's not anything that really contradicts it. It's just an alternate take on that. On that scene.
I think.
But what I'm saying here is that this panel is. I think this was definitely a mistake. I don't think this was intentional.
We have to keep in mind that these are produced very quickly, especially the UK versions. They have to keep up with the weekly schedule. So it could be either one. I think if I had to guess, if I had to guess. Well, actually, no. I'm going to say it's an editorial issue. Editorial should have caught that. Editorial should have looked at this and can't put that to print yet.
Yeah. Or Han just likes to repeat himself. Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe Han's real nervous for some reason.
Maybe he's Frank Miller all of a sudden.
It could be. I like this as the origin to the Jabba issues. We'll say. I think this is perfectly fine. I like that I like that it's because they had to save another Wookiee. I think that's fun. I like that his name is Hronk because that actually sounds like a Wookiee name. That sounds like what a Wookiee would be able to say. Hronk. Well, whatever. Hronk. Whatever. Deeply embarrassing.
I always find that whenever someone tries to do
it's
when someone tries to imitate the way a Wookiee speaks, they tend to make it too phlegmy.
Yeah.
They did that.
It's phonetically, consistent with how you would think a Wookiee would talk. So very good on that. It's just when you pronounce it, it's not a name you would remember. So like for marketing purposes, like Numreth, like would you name one of the action figures that? I don't know. It'd be hard to remember something like that. So it's always a balance between what would fit good in a Star Wars context versus what our readers going to remember.
And for one of these like real small little stories, that's not the biggest deal in the world. But the great thing about the expanded universe is there's so many characters and they all get stories. So you want as many of them to be decent at least as you can. I think this is all right. This is okay.
Do we ever see Formos again elsewhere?
I don't think so. I mean, I have it pulled up here. I can take a look. But I think this is a winner.
So it's in the new canon.
Apparently, it is in the Edge of the Empire core rulebook. So.
Okay, interesting.
And it's mentioned in like the Atlas and all this thing. All the other things.
It has an alternate name, originally known as XOLCH.
Oh, that's
XOLOCH.
That's a
Sloch.
That's a very.
I don't know how you pronounce that. It was part of Zim's Infinite Empire.
Mm.
Zolch.
But yeah.
Any final thoughts, Alex? What do you think about this story?
Yeah, not really. Just kind of everything you guys said. I thought it was fine. I wasn't particularly a fan of it. I don't remember what my thoughts were the first time. I think I also thought it was fine. I might have liked it more the first time I read it. I don't know. But I don't have anything particular of note to say. Wookiee slavery, you guys mentioned it, and that is cool. It's so early that shows up. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't really feel it personally. But as to the comment about the black and white, I agree that not every comic needs to be colored. I've read quite a few of the Crow comics, and almost none of them are. I think none of them are actually in color. So, um, and I think it just works better for the vibe that those stories have. So I think that I don't know if the vibe necessarily needed to not be in color for this one, but I don't think it was necessary either.
In fact,
Color
in
is a
fact-
tool, right? Color
Yes.
is a tool, and choosing not to use it is just another exercise in in using that tool, I suppose.
yes. Well, we don't have a colorist credited for this story, but we do have a tonist, and that's a similar thing.
And Nazo mentions the Han and Chewie rescue. I think that was a kid's book that came out in the 2010s.
Yes.
I think that was like one of the later like expanded universe books just before the new canon took off. It may just reaccount the same story from a different point of view. I don't think it's like a super big contradiction. It's basically the same sort of story. Han gets boarded. The dialogue might be different, but they dump the spice. There may or may not be a Wookiee involved. Who knows?
That's
the contradiction.
That might have been Han telling his kids. It's been so long since then that he's just kind of going off of memory. And that's the
Maybe he
2000s
didn't
kid
like
book.
how he came off in the context of saving the Wookiee or something. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it was mentioned in A.C. Crispin's book, right? But I think there's another like Han and Chewie kids adventure book, like a learn to read book.
There was also a comic, wasn't there?
I also didn't mention earlier. I liked the Bug Boys. I thought they were designed
Bug
well.
Boys.
I should have earlier.
That's fair.
But the Ann Crispin reference is this event. So Ann Crispin, when she mentions it, she's talking about this comic. Like she did read this. She did do the homework of all the backstory and material on previous Star Wars adventures. So that is consistent.
Still one of the best trilogies in the especially in the Bantam era, but even after.
I agree. I think
Love
it's
those.
one of the best too.
Love those.
Yep.
We'll get to that in a million years.
Are we going to cover? So this is a question, Alex. Are we going to cover guides and things of that nature, or?
I don't know how Brennan has different like short story in it. So like I know in some of the older things there were like throughout the whole book there were a couple of like paragraphs which were written down in stories. So I would just put that one in one view of like all these little paragraphs that were meant to be like a little short story, but I would not review or go over the entire essential guide. I would.
Yeah, if it's noteworthy, we'll probably cover it. I know, like the first essential guide to characters has no real new information from it. Bits of information on every guide subsequent to that. So, like Essential Guide to Planets and Moons, I think it has some new information, but nothing really noteworthy until you get to like the Essential Guide to Warfare, the Essential Atlas, like those things have a lot of new information.
Stories. So if the work in question doesn't have like something framed as a story within it, like because some of those guides have sections which are written down as a little short story, then I'll add that. But if it's just information, I don't care.
Right. We'll play it by ear as we get to them, but we have a lot more stories to cover. Next up, I believe we go to Brian Daly's trilogy.
Okay, so this is what I was thinking of. Wasn't there a comic written by Ryder Wyndham that involved the Falcon getting repeatedly searched?
Yes, I think there is. There's a lot of like Han Solo smuggling stories. Whether it's the one where he loses the spice for Jabba, I don't know. We'll end up covering it, no doubt, in the future. So we'll get to it when we get to it. Nice to see Star Wars Scran in the chat there. What's up, man? Thanks for watching.
Are there any
That's-
are there any comments that we've missed?
I think I kept them up as we were going. I don't think so.
But thanks to everyone for commenting. Marcel, Nazo, God, Games, and Geekiness, and Star Wars.
That's
Great.
an epic.
Good to see everyone. But I have nothing left to say about this story.
Me neither.
Anybody else? Going once? Going twice?
So
We shall read Canale Han Solo book. Han Solo at Star's End.
yes.
Yeah, looking forward to it. See
gonna
you
be a lot of
all
fun.
next time.
Next time.
Presumably
All
also
right.
the
Goodbye, everyone.
the comic adaptation.
Yes, we'll cover
Yes.
that as well.
We'll briefly go over that as well.
Okay.
But yes, it's probably going to be next week, but I can't promise nothing. Just know that whenever we come back, that's up next. And until then, I'll steal from other franchise. Live long and prosper. Bye bye.